Sydney Open spokesman Tyson Coe, who says the changes don't go far enough.
Well, look, it's taken the Baird government 3 long years to kick the can down the road and recommend a 30-minute paltry extension on the lockouts, which is just unacceptable because we've seen in Sydney a complete decimation of small businesses within the precinct. The live music scene has taken a huge blow to the guts in terms of its confidence. Everyone's laughing at us around the country and around the world. And look, I don't know if the Premier thought that 30 minutes would get this issue off his back coming into the new year, but it's certainly not going to.
Is 30 minutes better than nothing?
30 minutes is absolutely better than nothing, but you have to wonder what was the point, because what we're seeing with the venues that are being affected by the lockout is that a lot of people aren't going to them at all. They're going to areas where they can go out, so places like the casino and also neighbouring areas like Double Bay and Newtown, and so these businesses are still going to suffer even with this 30-minute extension.
Did you see any drop in live music and people going to live music venues prior to the lockout laws? For example, more pokies being introduced in sort of pubs and clubs around Sydney. Was there a sort of drop-off then as well?
Yeah, well, the problem with the lockout laws is that that certainly wasn't the first measure to create a bit of tension within the live music scene. So we all know that ever since pokies were introduced in the 90s, that a lot of pubs replaced their band rooms with pokey rooms. But what we have seen with the lockouts is where the pokies and other pieces of legislation have really hurt the live music scene. The lockouts just completely wiped it out in a lot of different areas. So we were already struggling, and now we're just going to continue to struggle.
In terms of the violence, the statistics, at least around the areas where the lockouts have been introduced, have dropped dramatically in terms of alcohol-fuelled violence. So in your view, how do you create a sustainable, safe nightlife when alcohol is also involved?
Well, I think it's worth acknowledging that Sydney was already a safe city. So when we're talking about these differences in percentage, whether it's 20% or 40%, that we were talking about a very, very low number to begin with. And so we have seen that the lockouts have reduced violence, but only by getting rid of people. So we've seen, for example, in King's Cross, a 40 to 80% drop in the amount of people that visit the area. So when you say a 40% drop in alcohol-fuelled violence has been experienced in that area, it's only been achieved by getting rid of people, and that's no way to solve an issue. Now, what Keep Sydney Open is recommending is to get rid of this thinking where you can either have safety or vibrancy, and acknowledge that there are many other cities around the world that have bigger populations that have a later nightlife than Sydney does, and they manage to work their way around it. So a few of the measures that we advocate for include fixing up public transport, because anyone who's been around on a night out in Sydney knows that it's absolutely shocking. And also the police really need to be more visible within entertainment precincts, deal with the venues in a more collegiate manner, and also we need to diversify the offerings in terms of activities on a night out. So we're talking about extending hours to restaurants, to retail, to art galleries. You know, we want nightlife to be exciting and inclusive that everyone can enjoy.
One of the issues I did want to pick your brains on was that New South Wales Premier Mike Baird also sort of spoke today about this fluidity around hours. So there's businesses now that have had to adjust to the current lockout laws. In January, they'll adjust to new times. Mike Baird thinks that that fluidity and flexibility is fine for business. Is it difficult for businesses to keep adjusting their hours and also, I guess, the expectations of their patrons?
Well, I think that, as I say, the lockout precinct is really affecting businesses that are in the areas of Darlinghurst and Oxford Street, King's Cross and the CBD. And it's incredibly unfair to keep on changing the goalposts for that area, but not surrounding areas, and certainly not the casino. In fact, if the government was really serious about tackling violence, then what it would do would put a lockout on the casino and remove it everywhere else, because the Star Casino is actually the most violent venue in the entire state. So we really do question the government's real motivations in terms of trying to tackle violence here. But when it comes to moving closing times and lockout times, look, I think there's no doubt that businesses want to stay open for as long as possible. So I think they'll be happy to come to the table on that.
A report to the federal government warns time is running out for Australia to eradicate deadly